This Roblox player heard his mother call his name from a room he already knew was empty. Her voice was clear, and it was warm, and it came from the kitchen downstairs. The only problem was that his mother had been at work for the last 4 hours. What made him stop before he answered that voice is something you need to hear tonight. Ethan was 13, and he came home to an empty house every afternoon after school. His mother worked long shifts at the hospital and rarely made it home before dark. His little sister Lily stayed at their grandmother's house until their mom picked her up, and his father drove trucks at night, so the evenings usually belonged to Ethan alone. He was not a nervous kid, and he had never once been afraid of that house. He would drop his backpack by the stairs and log on to Roblox until somebody came home. The house was old, built long before Ethan was born, and it made its own noises. The floors popped, the pipes knocked, and the furnace in the basement rumbled to life at dusk. Ethan knew every one of those sounds the way you know the breathing of your own home. He knew the difference between a house settling and a person standing in the room with him. None of them had ever once sounded like a human voice saying his name out loud. For 13 years, that house had been nothing but safe and boring and completely ordinary. Ethan and his mother had a small ritual every single evening when she finally walked in. She would call his name from the front door, and he would yell back from his room. It was such a normal thing that he never once thought about it as anything special. Her voice calling Ethan meant that the day was over and that he was no longer alone. So his brain had heard that exact sound thousands of times across his whole short life. Maybe that is why the thing that came later knew it was the perfect voice to borrow. That was exactly why the first time it happened, he did not feel afraid at all. He simply felt confused, the way you do when something small does not quite add up. He had no idea that a single afternoon was about to change how he heard silence forever. It was an ordinary Thursday, gray and quiet, with rain tapping softly on the windows. Ethan was sitting at his desk upstairs, headphones around his neck, halfway through a Roblox match. And then, from the kitchen directly below him, he heard his mother call his name. The voice said, "Ethan, come down here for a second." Exactly the way she always did. He pulled off his headphones and shouted back that he was coming in just a minute. He saved his game, walked down the stairs, and stepped into the kitchen with no worry at all. The kitchen was empty, the lights were off, and the back door was locked from the inside. His mother's car was not in the driveway, and her coat was not hanging by the door. Everything sat exactly where it always did, silent and still and completely undisturbed by anyone. The rain kept falling, and the empty kitchen clock kept ticking, and nobody answered him back. Ethan stood there for a moment, and he told himself he had simply imagined the whole thing. He had been tired, the rain was loud, and tired brains fill silence with familiar sounds. And here is the strange part, which is actually true for almost everybody watching this right now. Hearing your own name called when nobody is there is one of the most common things people report. Doctors call it a hypnagogic hallucination, and it usually happens as your tired mind drifts towards sleep. So Ethan did the reasonable thing, and he laughed at himself, and he went back upstairs. But 20 minutes later, the voice called his name again, and this time it was closer. It was not in the kitchen anymore. It was at the bottom of the stairs, looking up. And this time, it did not say the words that his mother would normally ever say. The voice at the bottom of the stairs said, "Ethan, I am already inside. Come and see." His mother had never in her life spoken a sentence anything like that to him. Ethan froze at his desk, and for the first time, that house did not feel safe. He did not answer, and he did not move. And after a long minute, the voice went silent. He spent the rest of that evening telling himself that the rain had twisted an ordinary sound. But over the next 2 weeks, the voice came back again, and again, and again. It always used his mother's voice, and it always called from somewhere inside the empty house. It learned, too, which is the part that Ethan still cannot fully explain to this day. It started using her exact phrases, the little things only she said, like, "Supper's almost ready." Then it began calling him by the nickname that only his family had ever used at home. One afternoon, it called from his parents' bedroom, and another time from just behind the shower curtain. Ethan started keeping every light in the house on, even in the middle of the day. He tried recording the sounds on his phone, but the voice never once came while recording. It only ever called when he was alone, and when there was no way to prove it. The scariest part was not the voice itself, but how patient and how calm it always sounded. It never shouted and it never begged. It simply called and it waited and it tried again. Some nights he lay awake for hours, just listening to the dark house breathe around him. And here is something that almost every culture on Earth quietly agrees on, across the whole world. Nearly all of them have an old story about a thing that copies the voices of your loved ones. It calls your name from the dark, or the woods, or the empty room to make you come closer. And in every single version of that story, the warning is always exactly the same one. Do not answer it, do not go toward it, and never, ever let it know you can hear it. Ethan had never read those stories, but somehow his body already seemed to know that rule. Then came the night that broke him, the night the voice stopped using his mother at all. Because that night, from the hallway outside his door, the voice called his name in his own voice. Hearing your own exact voice call your name through a door is a special kind of terror. Ethan finally did the one thing he should have done on that very first gray afternoon. The next morning, he sat his mother down at the kitchen table and told her everything. He expected her to laugh, or to worry about him, or to say he had been dreaming. Instead, his mother went quiet, and then she told him something that made his skin go cold. She said that lately, she had been having headaches and strange dreams and a feeling of being watched. Little Lily had been telling Grandma that she heard people talking in the walls at night. His mother admitted she had felt it too, but had said nothing to avoid scaring the kids. For weeks, the whole family had each been quietly carrying the same secret fear, all alone. Naming it out loud together, at that kitchen table, was the first time any of them felt safe. So Ethan's mother did not call a priest, and she did not call a ghost hunter. She called a man who came out to inspect their old furnace down in the basement. Because there is a real and deadly thing that can make an entire family believe in ghosts. It is a gas called carbon monoxide, and you cannot see it, smell it, or taste it. When a furnace leaks it, it starves the brain of oxygen, and the brain begins to invent things. In 1921, a doctor wrote about a family tormented by footsteps, voices, and shadowy figures. Their haunted house turned out to be a broken furnace, quietly poisoning them in their sleep. So a carbon monoxide alarm can genuinely be the thing that ends a real-life ghost story. The inspector checked every inch of the house, and the family waited on the porch to hear. And what he finally told them did not make the fear go away at all. The inspector said the old furnace was worn and that it should be replaced fairly soon. But he also said its levels were low and nowhere near enough to cause what they described. He could explain a headache and maybe a bad dream, but he could not explain the rest. He could not explain a voice that learned new words, or one that Lily heard while wide awake. And here is the part of this story that I really want every one of you to carry home. It does not actually matter whether it was a tired mind, a leaking furnace, or something older. Every single one of those explanations ends with the exact same piece of life-saving advice. If your empty house calls your name, you do not answer it, and you tell a real person. That one rule protects you from a hallucination, from a poison in the air, and from far worse. Fear wants your attention, and it grows stronger every single time you feed it a response. The moment you stop answering the thing in the dark, you take back all of its power. Ethan never answered the voice, not even once, and that is very likely why he is still okay. The thing that frightened him most was not the calling, it was how badly it wanted a reply. Ethan's family replaced the furnace, and they put a carbon monoxide alarm on every single floor. The headaches faded, Lily stopped hearing the walls, and for a long while the house went quiet. Ethan slowly started to believe that whatever it had been was finally, completely, and truly gone. And he never again spent a single afternoon pretending that a strange sound was simply nothing. Then, one ordinary afternoon, months later, he was home alone doing homework at the kitchen table. And from the empty top of the stairs, in his mother's warm voice, something called his name. For one long second, the old urge to shout back rose up automatically in his throat. But Ethan did not answer it, and he did not go and look, and he did not freeze. He quietly closed his laptop, he picked up his phone, and he walked straight out the front door. He sat on the porch in the cold, and he called his mother, and he waited for her there. Because he finally understood the one thing that every scary story had been trying to teach him. Some doors are safest when you simply refuse, no matter how familiar the voice, to ever open them. Have you ever heard your name called in an empty house when you knew that you were alone? Tell me exactly what you did down in the comments below, because I really want to know. And if you take one thing from tonight, please put a carbon monoxide alarm in your home. If you watched all the way to the end, then you already know never to answer that voice. Subscribe so you never miss another story that keeps you and the people you love a little safer. Take care of each other out there, and I will see you again in the very next one.